in my head, they don't rest. Selfish inside, my heart full of pride. You gave us your role and I still deny.
Welcome to the Fit for the Kingdom podcast with your hosts, Bede Alexander, Matt Mashevsky, Thomas Monies-Gasson, and today we have a special guest with us, Dr. Robert Loretz.
There's a doctor in the house.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a bit of credibility to the pod today. Right. Before we start the podcast off, let's just offer this podcast to Our Lady. Right, nomini Patris, Filii, Spiritus Sancti, Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae, Amen. Right, today to kick the podcast off, we have Thomas with a reading.
We have St. Francis de Sales' Introduction to the Devout Life of Real Friendship. Do you, my child, love everyone with the pure love of charity, but have no friendship save with those whose intercourse is good and true? And the purer the bond which unites you so, much higher will your friendship be. If your intercourse is based on science, it is praiseworthy, still more if it arises from a participation in goodness, prudence, justice, and the like. But if the bond of your mutual liking be charity, devotion, and Christian perfection, God knows how very precious a friendship it is. Precious because it comes from God, because it tends to God, because God is the link that binds you, because it will last forever in Him. Truly it is a blessed thing to love on earth as we hope to love in heaven, and to begin that friendship here which is to endure forever there. I am not now speaking of simple charity, a love due to all mankind, but of that spiritual friendship which binds souls together, leading them to share devotions and spiritual interests, so as to have but one mind between them. Such as these may well cry out, Behold, how good and joyful a thing it is, brethren, to dwell together in unity. Even so, for the precious ointment of devotion trickles continually from one heart to the other, so that truly we may say to such friendship, the Lord promises His blessing and life forevermore. To my mind, all other friendship is but as a shadow with respect to this. It links mere fragile glass compared to the golden bond of true devotion.
So that's the topic for the podcast today, a true friendship. And we've got Dr. Robert Loretz here to talk about it. If you just wanted to give yourself a
Dr. Love, Dr. Friendship.
an introduction.
Oh, well, I'm the same age as Tucker Carlson. Although maybe 1 year older now. I just had a birthday, 54.
Nice, happy birthday.
Yeah. Started off after school looking into music in a big way. Did a Master of Music and but gradually got in more and more into philosophy and theology and got attracted to Thomas Aquinas and various others like that, obviously, the heart of the faith. But then realized that to understand these things more deeply, we can't neglect the people that inspired Aquinas, which is especially Aristotle. Mm-hmm. So I got quite into the philosophy of Aristotle and ended up having the privilege of 4 years in France with the Brothers of St. John. I wasn't a brother, I was just a lay student across the road, but I tuned in on all their formation. They specialize in what's called realist philosophy. So it's trying to use real experiences, trying to get back to analyzing deeply the basic experiences of life that builds up a very beautiful realist philosophy in the spirit of Aristotle. And that leads obviously very well into the faith when grace builds on nature. And as you said in the beautiful reading there, friendship goes all the way from the beautiful friendships of, like he said, friendship based on science is already great, but a friendship based on the virtues is even better. But the friendship based on your absolute love for the truth and seeking God and charity from Christ. So in other words, what starts off even just mates is actually the beginning of a theme that takes you all the way up to communion in the Holy Trinity. So there's an amazing connection from earth to heaven through friendship.
And it's such a beautiful topic that you did your thesis, if I'm correct, on this, didn't you, this topic, Robert?
Yep. It's right here in my book, as the Americans say. The title being Deep Friendship, Virtue and Fulfillment. Who doesn't want to read that? Yeah.
I have to get us a copy. That'll be on the
Exactly.
merch
So
store.
where can people find this, Robert?
They have to find me and I'll have to print one. I'm a poor guy. If there's a sponsor out there, yeah, we could make a few. But
Excellent.
100%.
Well, if you like the pod and you want
for the
to
Kingdom
learn a bit more,
Publishing.
Kingdom Publishing Limited, yeah. You're right. No, basically my thesis looks at how does friendship interact with virtue and the fulfillment in our lives. And it was in that beautiful reading, we could just dissect that the whole time if we wanted to. It's so full of stuff. But basically, he was saying, seek friendship with people that are virtuous, seek friendship with people that are seeking the same truths and the same goodness, and your friendship will go infinitely high. And this is actually a theme right back in Aristotle. Who was it? It was Francis de Sales.
Yes.
We heard. So this is you go back to Aristotle, 200 or 300 years BC, and he's basically saying anybody can have a friendship of pleasure. Anybody can have a friendship where it's just so cool to hang out with these people because we all make each other happy in some kind of way. We get on well. We got the same sense of humor. We're good drinking buddies. We like movies. We like we like the same sport. Whatever it is, we hang out at the gym. And that can be a friendship of pleasure. Just the right kind of person that I click with. Then there's the friendship of usefulness, and especially you see those in the workplace. You might work with a bunch of people at work, and but there's a few you really click with. You start helping each other out a little bit more than normal. You're very happy to pick up when the other one's sick or whatever. You look out for each other. It's someone's birthday, you bring in the cake, whatever. And the friendship's building up. It's more with some than others. That's a useful friendship. But Aristotle's saying, well, everybody has lots of these friendships in their lives. They're good, but they're not deep. And when we find that our tastes and our lives move on slightly, we find other things more pleasurable, we'll find another group of people around that. When we move workplace, we're not going to keep knocking on the door of the people we work with in the last workplace on the weekend and hanging out, unless our friendship's gone to another level. Yeah, but Aristotle's saying the only way you can have a deep friendship, and for him that means like a lifelong friendship in the end, where you really share life together, and you really start to love each other and know each other for who you really are, and you're looking out for the best way for that other one to flourish and be their best self. He says you can't sustain that without virtue. You can't sustain that without, deep honesty, deep generosity, deep sense of sacrifice, deep sense of courage when something's going wrong. If you're lacking those things, that'll fall apart whenever there's trouble, So
Loyalty.
Yeah. And yet, so that idea is old, that you need virtue for a deeper friendship. But what hasn't been so much looked at is how do you get this virtue? And what I'm looking at is actually it's often through friendships that your virtue gets deeper. So you can try and practice courage in the corner by being all right, I'll have a cold shower. Yep, there we go, I've got a cold shower. Ooh, that was hot. I'm building up my courage to have cold showers. Now I really enjoy cold showers, Well, but a cold shower is not really a courageous act because it's a pre-courageous act. Because it hasn't got a noble cause in it.
I think we'd actually disagree with you to a certain extent there, Robert.
Excellent. I was waiting for that.
Offer it up for the souls in purgatory.
You cheated. You've imported a noble cause. But let's look at sport.
For the sake of a cold
I think
shower.
this is a perfect thing to expand on because, Robert, if you could explain to us, I guess, what gives something its intrinsic value in the sense of that you're saying that the act in and of itself does not have intrinsic value unless it has a higher motive. That's what you're saying. And so naturally we associate the higher virtue or the higher cause with it. But not necessarily.
Yep.
They're not exactly the same thing. They don't come hand in hand
Good
always.
question. Like if you think about, let's take sport because we're Kiwis and most people like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the one fat guy in the room here, but you can't see me. Anyway, take rugby. On the surface of things, and we could say, oh, well, look at that. Even a kid with real commitment, pushing his way through, getting tackled, taking all the knocks, he's got to get that ball to the other side. He learns a kind of commitment, push, perseverance, all that stuff. It's really good for you. But it's not actually courage yet. It's not the virtue of courage within rugby, because the goal of getting a ball across a line is just something we made up arbitrarily. It's not a noble thing to get a ball across a line as such. So like rugby's a good, or any sport, any fitness, anything that involves discipline, learning the piano, got to practice every day. If you got to stick at it when you don't feel like it, all those things, they're really good for you for developing the beginnings of things you need in virtues. But when does it become a virtue of courage? It's not until there's a truly a higher good you're holding on to and suffering for that higher good, because it's worth preserving, either worth fighting for or worth enduring pain for, and losing other things for. And that higher good's always going to be something personal. Like for example, a good man will die for his friend. You defend your country and your family. You especially stand up for the truth and for God and all of that. So you martyrdom is the ultimate courage, because the cause is higher. So it's not just how hard was it; it's how high was the cause, and it's actually even the early church fathers say that the martyrdom is not
voluntary.
It's not courage is not caused by the difficulty, by the level, but by the high, the highness of the cause.
Well, it's an interesting theme you're talking about last night, Robert, that we just went to a Man for All Seasons play. And obviously St. Thomas More, they're getting martyred. But you were saying how the early church had banned people from volunteering for martyrdom because they'd get in the arena and then they'd denounce Christ, they'd apostatize.
Yeah. Because if you think about the early church, I mean, we had about 14 popes by the time of St. Irenaeus, which was 180. Well, what's happening to popes? Well, they're basically being killed
all of them.
That's the top guy. Get them.
Yeah.
And so many bishops and so many lay people, virgins, the girls that wanted to give their whole life to Christ solely for him, even their fathers killed them because they wouldn't get married. And they're dying for Christ. And not only that, some of them are able to sing in the lion arena. They've got this peace and this joy in them. And it's obviously a grace of courage from the Holy Spirit. That's supernatural. You can't do that. You can't put that on.
Well, that's also the thing as well. I'll just add this on before Robert continues, but just that martyrdom is actually a grace first and foremost, rather than an actual action of you choose. You can't choose it yourself. It's a gift. You
can't give yourself the grace. So other people looking on, and they got a noble, good intention. It's like St. Peter when he goes, "I will fight for you, Lord. I won't let anyone hurt you. I'll be the only guy that stands by you." And then what he denies straight away, and he's run off. Why is that? Because he was on his own steam, and the early church guys that wanted to join in with the martyrs and volunteered were the ones that chickened out on the spot, screamed and denounced God or anything just to get away. And the Christians noticed that, look, there's a grace given to these guys, and those guys that wanted to do it themselves couldn't do it. So it became a church rule, you don't volunteer for martyrdom. Which, anyway, does that take us back to friendship? Yeah, so I guess the thing about friendship is what makes it I won't say a shallow one, but a less deep one or a deeper one, depends on what good you want for the other person. So in any friendship, you want a good for each other. It's not friendship unless it's mutual, because if I really, really want the best for Bede, man. Bede's such an awesome dude. There's Bede. He's such a good guy. I'm his real good friend, but he's never met me. He doesn't know me. I just watch him over there and go, what a good guy. Here I'll donate some money. I'll give that to Bede. He doesn't even know me, but I can't go and go, Bede's my friend. Yeah. I'm an admirer. Well, I'm not actually. Well, I am, but I don't give him money. But anyway,
Look,
I'm
you
an
can
admirer.
still, just to be clear, you can still be an admirer and donate to our locals
yeah, I
page.
was just wondering when that. Yeah, yeah. But so friendship's mutual. But what's mutual is I want the good for you. But what good? If the good is the good of being useful to each other, that's a useful friendship. If the good is that we have a great time, pleasurable, that's a pleasure friendship. But if the good that I want for you is you to be your best self, you to flourish in who you really are and who you're called to be, then suddenly I find all these different things start happening in me. Like. Somebody really needs you at 2 a.m. because they've had some terrible thing happen. If it's a mild acquaintance, you'll be like, why are they calling me? Or even at work, somebody's mum's got cancer. You're going to feel, I'm sorry to hear that, blah, blah. And you'll do your bit like that. But if you've got a deeper connection with that person, you'll be around there with food, you'll be sacrificing, you'll be helping, and you won't even notice those sacrifices. That's normal because it's like,
They're my friend.
Yeah.
When they say that
good is pulling you.
they say that about when you start to grow in holiness, that you need to become forgetful of self, that you forget your own needs, and then you think of only of the needs of others. And you see that with so many of the saints, like especially Teresa of Calcutta. Look at the example she set.
Yeah. And her thing is. It's still based on a very personal friendship, and it's straight to Christ though. That she's so seeing him in the poor that when she touches them, she touches him, and she's also seeing his desire to love the poor and she's the instrument of it. So she wants to satisfy his thirst for them and their thirst for him. That's her big call. But you're right. It's you start to forget yourself in that. And Aristotle puts it in a really nice way. The friend becomes another self.
Wow.
So what happens is, normally, if you think of normal life, you wander around, who's the person you're making sure is okay? Is you.
Yeah.
Am I comfortable? Oh, I've got a sore foot. Or I'm hungry. And we just react to our things, right? But then we suddenly discover, what's happened with this person here? When they're sad, I'm starting to be sad. If they got a need, it's becoming my need to help them, and they're picking me up. And then it can even go so far as I care more about this person actually. If I'll give them the best one. Oh, that doesn't matter. I don't care if I only have that. And you want to. It's not like there's a rule book that says I'll give the best thing to someone else, and you're like, oh, I'll do it too. Okay, I'll do it. It's like another, fortify myself. And you happily do it. Which is another thing Aristotle says actually about virtue. It's not really virtue until your desire and your wants and your feelings are clicking in as well.
That's just a point on that. That's interesting because a lot of the time, you might have to sacrifice something for your friend or whatever, and that can be difficult to do.
Yeah.
So would you say that even though it's it's difficult and you're sacrificing, it's not necessarily something that you naturally desire to do, it's still a good thing to do because your desire is greater to do it than to not do it?
Yes, exactly. And I think generosity is like that. It's an easy one to see because you can give something quite substantial, but you either do it underneath happily or begrudgingly. If it's begrudgingly, but you still think you should because it's probably the right thing to do and it's a really good thing to do, but I really don't want to give up this. It's my only $100. Then you're on the way to generosity, but you're not yet fully generous.
Yeah.
And so Aristotle makes 4 steps, like if for the fully. Oh, let's go to the wicked guy first. He calls him the wicked. The wicked guy. No, let's go to the virtuous guy. Always start from the good and let it degrade to the bad. Yeah.
A bit like this podcast.
The virtuous guy perceives the right thing to do, like he has a good prudence and makes a good judgment of what is the right thing in this moment, the best thing for this situation, this person, whatever. And So sees it, judges it, acts, puts it into action, but also their feelings follow along. They're happy to be doing the good thing. They actually enjoy it, with not focusing on their feelings, but they come away with it's like we would say, you get a deep peace when you've done the right thing.
Consolation.
Yeah, even if it's been quite awful on surface level, there's a peace underneath because it's the right thing. You know. That's the virtuous person. The person who has to have an inner struggle to do the right thing because he knows it's right, but all his feelings are pushing the other way. Aristotle calls them, if they have the victory, they're called continent because they're holding themselves together. But it's like holding yourself together with an effort. If you're a guy that struggles away, you know what's right, you struggle away, but you end up not doing what's right, which is, basically sin. Then he calls it incontinent. So there was part of you wanted the right thing, and too much of you chose the easier path that ends up being worse. And then there's the plain old, what he calls the wicked, who actually just want the wrong thing, put all their effort into that, drive that way. And so there's 4 stages. And what's interesting in our modern world, often the media, they'll look at those middle two and call them hypocrites, whereas they're just people on the way to goodness. So, like everyone's going to have a struggle. Everyone's going to have, no one starts virtuous. Virtue's built up.
Would you even say then that the continent people, the third, the second just below virtuous, would you say that they're even more courageous than the?
Well, that's
we talked about courage before.
Question. It's a fantastic question,
Well,
and the answer
merit to their actions.
The answer is no, but you would say yes if you followed Kant, the philosopher Kant. If you follow Aristotle, so I shouldn't say the answer is no. I'll say, computer says no. Aristotle says no. Aristotle says no. And so does Aquinas. Because it's not the extent of the struggle that makes it more virtuous. If you think of chastity as a good example, if a guy is like being faithful, because but inside he's tempted everywhere he looks, and he's battling like crazy not to slip up in that way, then he's not yet fully chaste. If he had a chaste heart, he wouldn't be looking in with that possessive eye on all sorts of other people and then fighting that off. If he had, it's great when he fights it off, and it could be in some ways heroic sometimes, especially if his habit in his older life was doing whatever he wanted and not thinking, and now he's got to fight his way out of that vice toward virtue. But the more he does it, the more he has a chaste eye, the less that battle will be raging inside him. So actually, in the end, it comes easier. The virtue comes easier to the virtuous man the more he's got a habit. It's like saying, when you play the piano, I've been learning for 1 year, and you're struggling through some easy piece, and it's hard work, and there's not more merit to that than a full-on pianist that can just sit down without thinking and play something absolutely beautifully, because they've done all that work to build into that, and then it's changed them at such a way that now to turn on the piano is just to like a little on button in their head, and they'll just play. And it's the same with virtue. It's analogous. It builds up until it becomes easy.
It becomes your character.
Yeah. But on the subject of courage, this is one actual point where it is very complicated, because it is true sometimes that if the battle is more, the courage is more, and it depends where the battle is. So if the battle is out there, then the worse the conditions against you, and the harder it is to hold on to the good, the more courageous we can say you were. So, and that's because the struggle's coming from outside.
And I think that's an interesting point. You make the point about chastity. In a world we live in, the attack on chastity is massive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and actually, if we look at it closely, on every virtue, probably.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, but you're right, and chastity's an obvious one. But when it comes to courage, if the battle's being caused by me inside, because I'm actually a coward, and I'm more on I don't know if I'm continent or incontinent with courage, but I wouldn't say I'm very courageous as naturally. But you're driving along. I saw once, a big argument outside between a guy that looked pretty much like a gang member and some woman, and it looked like could turn very nasty. And I thought, oh flip. I'm not the guy that wants to stop his car right now and intervene, and I know I'll just get my head smacked in, but maybe I have to. So, because I'm a lover, not a fighter. Yeah. Anyway, not even that. But anyway, I'm a wimp. But
A doctor.
you do it and you enter in. Yeah, actually, I've got a few funny stories about that, but I won't tell them now.
Well, you could.
Almost could, eh?
Tell one.
Yeah, I'll tell how one guy got me out of one of those situations once.
Okay.
Anyway, continue on with your point, and then we can
yeah. Well, point being, what is the point? Oh, yeah.
The difference between
maybe
within and
the
without.
point is you can admire me more because the guy was way bigger than me and he clearly was going to smack me. And luckily, the woman told me to get lost because she was actually enjoying being abused by him. So I thought, oh, well, thank you, Lord. Got the virtue tick and still preserved my head, But, I've got this, I had this bad habit when I was young of just, you make eye contact with the one drunk guy in McDonald's. And everyone's laughing and you throw your head back and laugh, and then that guy sees you and you know he's seen you and you think, oh no, that guy's going to think I was laughing at him. And then he comes over and for some reason, I'm always the guy too far away, so he smacks someone else. And I used to have this habit of like whoever I was with would get something because of my face. And one time I was actually telling that story of what happened to one of my mates while it happened again. Like I was downtown at a fountain in Auckland telling another mate I hadn't seen for years what had happened. And up comes this guy, and he just spat on our shoes. And we looked up, and he's a massive guy, and and he goes, "You guys Aussies?" And we're like, "No, we're not Aussies." He's like, "I hate Aussies. I hate Aussies." I'm like, "We're not Aussies." And then he goes, "Oh, I think you're Aussies." He actually used a few adjectives, but I won't say those. And anyway, and I'm thinking, this has happened again. This is unbelievable. I was in the middle of telling a story like this, and it's happening again. But he was looking more at the other dude, and the other guy goes, "Hey, bro, do you know where we can get a drink?" He goes, "Oh yeah, bro, yeah, just down the road, yeah, turn around that corner, yeah." And I thought, oh, that's genius. We just got up, followed his directions to a pub, and then my mate goes, "You want to come with us?" I'm like, no, don't push it, bro. But anyway, that's intelligent prudence to get out of the situation, you see. But well, we're changing topics quite quickly here.
That's all right. Just keep going. Yeah, that's all right.
All good. Anyway, so courage. If the battle's inside, because I really don't want to, and no one wants to lose their life. You look at Thomas More in that play, you look at anybody. You're supposed to love the goods of life, and one of the best goods of life is your life. So if you hated your life and then you're suicidal or whatever, or you just hated life, and then you thought, well, I'll give my life for something then because I don't even like it. There's nothing in that.
Yeah.
You've got to love what you're sacrificing. You can't just sacrifice the things you don't like. But you don't look to sacrifice it because it's good to sacrifice. It's because I haven't got any choice here. If I'm going to hold on to this good, I'm going to maybe lose my life. I'm prepared for it because this good is so good. That's why the good has to be high. That's why it has to be like God or a deep friend or family or something.
It's interesting. Like, I just want to interject here quickly, just because you make an interesting point that it's not good to sacrifice for the sake of just sacrificing. But I think that oftentimes it's necessary to do the action, even if you don't want to at times, because then it leads to that higher virtue and that completeness of the virtue. So you're not saying, you're not saying don't do that. Don't
No,
make
because it's like sport. I'm not saying don't play sport, but but it's like there are lots of things in life that are actually really good for us that set us up for higher things. Yeah. But those things aren't yet the higher thing.
Yes.
So that's all it is. Like it's like playing games is really good for kids, obviously, because they learn to be fair, they learn to be a good winner or loser, they learn to
Play in a
stay
team.
within the rules and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those things. And in some ways, I once wrote, I wrote it for fun, but it turned out to be maybe even true. I don't know. A little study of games, like what are you doing when you're playing a game, you know? And I was looking at games where you win, not just endless and pointless nonsense like Dungeons and Dragons. But it's like dress up. Might as well play dress up.
Well, you know the exorcists say that Dungeon Dragon is opens you up to demonic possession and oppression.
Demonic position and wasting your whole life, probably. But yeah.
Anyway, that's the topic for another time.
But in a normal game, you got to go in for the kill right through the game until you suddenly win or lose, and then you've got to stop this kill nonsense. So it's like I remember playing Monopoly with. I won't mention names, but Grant Cornwall and his sisters. And we're up north on a holiday thing, and we're playing Monopoly. It's going well, you know. I start to get his money, and then just before he goes under, his sister just hands him $200 of hers, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "It's my brother." Like, no, there's no such thing as your brother in the middle of a game. You just killed the game. You just, you know. I mean, I'm a little bit competitive, but I think I'm right. You in the game, it's like being in a drama. You know, like Man for All Seasons. You're Cromwell. You're the evil guy. You know, and then you're the evil guy in that play, driven until you take your bow. Then you don't come out and be the evil guy. You don't go home being the evil guy because you were still in your part. Yeah. And the audience know that, and they're in that. At the end, they're clapping you happily. They're not. That's that evil guy.
Although there was a few boos last night when they did come out.
Yeah, last night Richie Rich got booed.
I don't think for his acting. Just
Not for his acting was very good. Yeah, and it was his birthday.
All right.
So maybe it was God keeping him humble. No, they were having fun. Yeah. But so you go in for the kill in a game. Well, what's the good of that? Is that a good thing to teach kids? Well, it actually is, because to go all the way to be determined right through no matter what, you know, is actually it's slowly building up for when do you have to go all the way in friendship? When do you have to go all the way in sacrifice? And even those things can be at a natural level or a supernatural level when it comes to, say, martyrdom.
Yeah.
When you look at Christ on the cross, he's in a battle with the devil. And that battle with the devil is full on right through, you know. It's not a... we shouldn't even call it a game, but if you like, all games, even in the ancient world, they played the Olympic Games as a way to prepare you to fight for your country. So it was all like looking toward a higher good later that you will need to be resilient for. And it's like that with what you're talking about. If you learn to make little sacrifices, it's like Lent, you know. We start Lent and we go, when we're little, you know, I'm going to give up chocolate and lollies and I'm going to do this and that. Cool. If you don't do that, you're probably never going to do anything else. But at the start, you might be doing it just thinking about the chocolate and the lollies, and then eventually you kind of get drawn to what we call the finality, the reason for the whole thing, the good that's attracting you to give up the smaller goods is a higher good. And that's really where deep virtue and friendship connect. You discover in friendship that someone else is a much higher good than you could have imagined, and you usually discover it over time. You don't see it straight away. Sometimes you see a person, you go, "Oh man, that's a good person. I'd love to be their friend," and you can see some goodness or something great, or you can be attracted to, like, that's a cool smile. That person, I can tell, has got a nice nature there. Or that person was really attentive to someone. Oh man, they're thoughtful. Oh, that seems like to be a good person. You know, you can get attracted at lots of levels to anybody, and some shallow and some deep. But as you get to know them, and then Aristotle says you go from loving their, like at first you might love even just their appearances, or you might love their qualities as you start to see them, even their virtues, but that's not yet fully loving them for them. Even when you admire their virtues and love them and enjoy being with them because they're so good, it's not like I love generosity, so I'm around this generous person and then that one. or I love courage. So anyone courageous, I just love them. It's not that. You go past the virtue to the core of the person. And he says you start loving the being of the person, and you start loving their life, the being and life, which he puts together quite strongly, because a human being who's not alive isn't really a human being. You get attracted by the things on the outside that are expressing the soul, and then you start to love their soul, and you love and you find in your best friends. They make all the difference in the world. They'll come in the room and the room's changed for you. There could be a big hall and there's one good friend over there and you just know they're there. There's a presence about that. And then what you notice when you are getting closer to people that are in a deeper way is you just notice you miss them. Like you don't miss most people. It's nice to be with people, but tomorrow you're with someone else. You're not spending the whole day missing the people you were with yesterday. But there will be this one person you're suddenly starting to miss. And in other languages, they got a nice way of saying I miss you. Like in French, they say tu me manques. And in Italian, they say sentito la mancanza di te. I sense the lack of you. Tu me manques. You are missing to me. You're a gap. You're a lack when you're not there. A room is emptier when you're not there. As a way of saying I miss you. So the weight of presence. Can I make one more little point?
Yep.
But this actually reminds me. You can't have deep friendship with anyone if you don't have real presence. You don't do it by distance. You can't do it by social media. All of that world of social media where everyone feels so connected and they've got so many friends or whatever is so false, because it's robbing us of the one thing that keeps love real, is presence. Because what the danger is, we go into the imagination whenever there's a gap. And we either imagine that person to be perfect because we're not with them enough to know they're not. and they'll never treat me like these people around me do. And we idealize them into something else. Or we wonder why they didn't answer the text straight away, what's going on, or don't they care, or they must have read it by now, and we start demonizing them. But in the gap, the imagination is taking you anywhere. But it's a real presence that actually keeps love real, and you have to go past little annoyances to the deeper thing you love and all of that, and you'll only get to know that in shared life and real presence, which is why the Eucharist is such an amazing thing in our faith.
And so all the sacraments are in person as well. You can't do confession over the phone. Yeah,
that's so amazing, in the church. You would have imagined they might have said yes to that when the phone got invented, Because I always wanted to do confession over the phone. I thought I could change my voice. It's even better. I don't trust that whole curtain thing, It's like I went to the Blimmin Cathedral. Let's not complain. But I noticed they got their screen up in St. Mary's in Christchurch there, and then the priest sits in front of a thing with frosted glass, except for the bit they've unfrosted so that you can see him to make sure he's not. Silly guy, and it's like, well, he just saw me walk in. I'm not going to pretend to be anonymous, sir. So I go in the other door, the side. Not that I've got anything.
It's funny. It's funny though, because a lot of people these days, they kind of like the old sit in front of the priest, and it's almost like they hold hands with the priest. And anyway, that's a topic.
It's another topic.
It's a topic for another time. But it's interesting, Robert. You make a beautiful point there. I think you actually highlight an interesting thing about the way that our society is shaping, because we're, as a society, saying that friendship is sort of, in many ways, more than a physical relationship. And yes, it is, but a true friendship is that physical presence, isn't it?
Say physical, but yeah. You've got to have a shared life. That's the thing.
Would you say then, is it possible for, aside from your spouse, is it possible for members of the opposite sex to have that true, deep friendship with each other?
I believe. I mean, it's possible because it does happen. Same sex, different sex, gender you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Precisely. I mean, between saints, Saint Thomas, Saint Francis, Saint Clare are obviously good examples.
Saint Teresa and Saint John of the Cross.
Yeah, exactly. That's a beautiful example. Yeah. Mother Teresa, Pope John Paul.
But in terms of,
but although that, in some ways some of those aren't like they're not sharing a lot of life. Mother Teresa and Pope John Paul, but the one thing that's the shortcut for sharing life is actually
Saint Francis and Saint Clare.
Christ is the shortcut because, when I say you can't love from a distance properly, that's at a human level, but you can love from a distance only through prayer, because if two people that are friends find themselves in different countries or whatever, their friendship can't develop at the level of just exercise very
Intimacy,
much. It won't. It kind of gets put on pause. When you see each other again 10 years later, it might be like, wow, it's like we just saw each other yesterday and nothing's changed. And we have that thing with people. But the one thing that does keep us in presence actually is prayer, because Christ is actually present to them and us. So in Him, when we're praying for somebody, it's the one time you actually can grow in your love and your development of but that's supernatural, and it's happening to make up for what should be happening naturally in a friendship. Like, it's not that normal to live on the other side of the world to your friend. It's just the modern world.
Yeah.
If you think of Aristotle, he would have sat probably under the same tree with his mates for his whole life, you know, and talked philosophy and wondered if the woman had finished the dinner yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I do have a bit of a question for you then, Robert. What advice would you give, or what habits would you say that people can do to help form these friendships and help cultivate them?
I would actually say appreciate the people that are around you and look to see what their goodness is, because we often don't do that at a very deep level. We interact
Superficially.
Yeah, we interact in good ways, but they're just what we need for now, or what we're doing, and then we move on. And obviously, the worst thing for a human is isolation in a way. And our modern world gets us to live in our imaginations, and the imagination is where you create from what is real around you. You take a bit of that real and a bit of that real and a bit of that real, and you pop it together in your imagination, and you've made a new thing that isn't real. And when I went over to France, one of the first things I heard one of them say is, the devil wants to keep us all living in our imagination, because we can't meet God in our imagination. God's real, and He's in the real. And if our whole life is spent in a virtual thing, we're actually avoiding God. It's like sloth. And so the remedy is to discover the presence of people, to persevere with people after they first annoy you. Because, this is the thing we do, is we move on because somebody annoyed us. It's very easy to do online. The cancel cultures are the ultimate example of that gone mad. But people would be doing that anyway, with just like, I'll block you, hang up here. If you think, like, you guys are young, but I grew up, I'm a Tucker Carlson generation, We knew what it was like not to have phones. And you'd make an arrangement to meet someone somewhere at a certain time, and then you had to be at that actual spot at that time.
Yeah.
You couldn't go, oh, sorry, can't make it now. And well, that person's actually there going, oh, what?
Yeah.
And just a quick text. People use text to break up relationships now. They don't even sit down face to face and, it's like, oh, yeah, nah, or just block. It's gone sour on me.
Just ghost, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know the words. But yeah. There we go. Presence. That's the thing. So we've got to fight. I'm sitting here with my phone in my lap. We've got to fight these machines in some ways to have a real... Because the other side of the coin is, and it's really clear in the Gospels, you can't say I love God and not love the people around you. And what idea will you have of love if you've never actually had any deeper love with a human being at all? You know what I mean? And most fortunately, we're born in families.
Yeah.
And we have an apprenticeship in love in a family if it's going well. And Families is like the precursor to friendship, and it can also even be friendship because you have a shared life with your brothers and sisters that will be the basis of you for your whole life for that relationship. So much was shared in every way that bond is irreplaceable, you know. But what's amazing about friendship is you meet someone you don't have to commit to. You meet someone you don't have to care about, and for some reason both of you have felt or have been drawn to the goodness of the other, and discovered that to such an extent that you start to say, my life would be worse, empty, something missing if we just walk away here. And all you got to do is look at a funeral. What do people talk about at funerals? You know, sometimes you get, oh, well, she worked for 37 years at this factory and she was always on time and she was very punctual and she never signed out early. You know, if that's the only thing you say in a eulogy, it's a sad eulogy.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes you get that at the beginning, but then you get all the love, all the relationships, the grandchildren, all the legacy of that, of love is what we want to hear about at a funeral. It might be the guy's real clever. He built this tower. He went to the moon. Well, that's interesting. But if there's no love story at the end of that eulogy, that's a sad eulogy.
Well, that's the interesting thing about funerals is like I heard someone
of course,
say
he didn't really go to the moon. But anyway, carry on.
Pot on that one coming.
I heard someone once say that the greatest celebration of life is a funeral, and that's an interesting thing because at a funeral, you truly get to see the friendships born. Because you have to be physically present at a funeral, and people have to physically, they talk about you and to a greater extent. And so, just if you were to say, as Robert says, oh, they were on time and stuff like that, they never knew you, that person. They never truly actually knew them whatsoever. And that's the interesting thing.
It's like they're reading out a CV, but there's no job to go to now. You know, But funerals are a beautiful example. What it's really interesting with death, because death always shows you, you know, the death of a deep friend, and you know how irreplaceable they are.
Yeah.
It's a singular love. Every real love is a singular love. You don't just love people in general. You love
That's
that
what St.
person,
Francis was
that
saying.
person.
You have a charity for all of mankind, but then there is friendship.
Yeah. But the charity for mankind isn't even blanket. It's actually It's actually love for Christ, and because I love Him, I care for and want what He wants, and He happens to love deeply everybody.
Yeah.
But only He can do that because He's God, and because He can do that, Christian charity takes you into a love out there in general, but it's actually specifically through the friendship of Christ. Otherwise, it's imaginary.
Yeah.
And that's like that higher purpose you talk about.
Yeah. Well, it's a part of the thing of any closeness, like that brings me to the issue of concord. Actually, friends grow to want the same things, especially the virtuous friend, because the virtuous person for Aristotle is someone who's consistent within their whole self. They're authentic within their whole self. They've got half of themselves raging against the other half of themselves. And the more that's integrated and toward the good, and then two people are like that, they actually they love the same things and they enjoy things more. Aristotle's really onto all this quite strongly. The wicked person's actually disintegrating even when they think they're winning, because they're actually against their own nature. So they never, they don't really go home happy even if they won that war. They're still, it's because inside, if there's no, our souls aren't sustained by vice. Yeah. So, I lost my track, but there we are.
Beautiful. I think that might be appropriate time to sort of stop this pod. I think we've certainly got a lot more to go on here. And I think we could probably do years with the pods.
This is the beginning of a series, by the way.
Part one.
Part one of true friendship.
Send more money and we can do part two. No.
Support our locals.
No. But I think it is an interesting thing. It's a funny joke, but we would appreciate some support to be able to support our guests. Robert is
Come all the way from 2 minutes up the road.
Look, no, but it's not
It
that.
adds up.
You spent years studying, you know what I mean? Years sacrificing your life to be able to come to this greater knowledge of the Christian faith. And so it's good to be able to have these people that we have on to be able to appreciate them and give them a little koha. You know, we're, in New Zealand, koha is quite important, So,
Cheers, bro.
yeah. Our koha for you this time, Robert, is a nice handshake. But
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And the pie from yesterday.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. Oh, I've already eaten that though. Oh, you got me another one? Oh, no. That's all right. All good. No, we're happy.
But anyway, thank you very much, Robert, for coming
Yeah,
on.
thank
Or
you.
Dr. Robert. And we're sure to have you on for a
Definitely.
lot more pods, I think, to come with
I think
Robert.
this would be a really good series to
Yeah, we can say it's been a pleasure. It's been useful, but it's been deep as well.
Good
Nice.
stuff.
Right. God bless you all. Well, we'll end this pod with a Hail Mary, shall we?
Yeah.
Have we do any closing statements from everyone here? Robert, do you have a closing statement?
Love your friend as another self. Beautiful.
Follow us on IG at FFTK Pod and follow the podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Yep.
We're out there.
And pray for us.
And then after you've followed all those things, stay off social media.
Yeah. That's true. Follow us and then delete the app.
Yeah. And then only ever check our page and you don't need
Yeah.
to worry about anything
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
That's right. And all checking of social media, I guess, is really, it's just like they'll be following the podcast and they'll be like, how can I meet these guys and actually have real presence?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's true. Well, we're
So-
And
actually...
the answer is at least in heaven, but hopefully before.
That brings us, we're running Fit for the Kingdom Brotherhood Retreat.
Brilliant.
In about 20 days. So keep that in your prayers as well.
It's probably done by the time this podcast drops.
True.
The retreat will probably be done. So we'll have some photos and maybe some videos up on the page. Well, so what the idea of it, Thomas? Do you want to expand on the idea?
So basically, all of us have younger brothers. We just want to build a bonds between us older lads and the younger boys coming in, and just really emphasize like the bonds and growing in brotherhood and stuff. And that'll be
that
the
deep friendship.
deep
So,
friendship.
yeah.
Exactly right.
Awesome.
And we're being led by Father Philip of the Brothers of St. John. It's going to
Nice.
be a 4-wheel drive adventure camp, and yeah,
Sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, should we end with a Hail Mary?
name of the Father,
Father,
and
Son,
Son,
and
and
Holy
Holy
Ghost.
Spirit.
Amen.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Saint Joseph,
Pray
Pray
for
for
us. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Lately I can't tell the difference.